what's going on at welterweight? You guys ever think about that? I mean, this division is wildly unclear right now, and it might be the hardest division. I defer down to 155 pounds, but I also noticed that and recognize that the GOAT of the entire sport, Kamaru Usman, is at welterweight. There's some massive stars at welterweight. There's some massive matches to be made, but I don't even know what's going on the championship side. Like, how do I begin to lay out a division for you if I don't know where the head of the division's at? Kamaru Usman versus Leon Edwards. I don't know of a fight that I have known about that has been announced and told to us that both guys are preparing for. I don't know of another fight that I could cite for you that I have known is going to take place for as long as I've known it's going to be Leon versus Kamaru Usman with no date announced. Is there any conspiracy? Is there anything that we're supposed to draw from that? I mean, it was 2 months ago that it was odd that a date hadn't been announced. But then all of a sudden, Kamaru Usman had his hand all wrapped up and announced that he went under the knife and had a surgery. So that bought us some time. And, okay, there's an explanation. And people must have known that was coming. It was one of these things, guys, that was 2 months ago or more. We still don't have that date announced. And I was into the rumor and the idea that was going around that it was going to be a headline or a feature match on International Fight Week, but that was only because of the date of the announcement and the fact that no location was given, which is just very uncommon. Now, I don't have a point here. Like, I'm not saying anything is amiss or that fight isn't still coming up. I'm just sharing for you until we know when the championship is going to be contested, and we do know who the champion's next opponent is going to be, but we're frozen. We're frozen at the head of the division. But if you break it down, the clear number one contender is Colby Covington, who clearly is not going to be given the opportunity that a number one contender is given, which is to fight for a championship. Not to mention whatever is going on with Colby and Masvidal. I want to be very light on it, probably just check out right there. But what if both of those guys are going to be held up? Because it appears, at least on Colby's side, that he is, right? I mean, all the talk that Colby was going to go fight Chimaev, that went absolutely nowhere. I was very quick to tell you guys, I don't think that's done. I'll go as far as to speculate that I don't think that Colby's even been contacted about it, but now it does appear that it's pretty clear that it isn't going to happen. Well, what is our evidence for that? Our evidence that it was supposed to be Chimaev's next fight, and then we knew the rumor that came out 7 days ago from the war room in the UFC that Chimaev was being looked at to go against Nate Diaz. Now, that all went to hell in a handbasket. Speaking of 170, that gets replaced with the Volkanovski-Max fight. Okay, no problem. But what is next for Chimaev? Vincent Luque, right? I mean, the wins could turn pretty fast where Vincent Luque becomes a number one contender, but he just got announced to be taking on Jeff Neal. Now, that would be a huge win for Neal, but I don't believe that Neal's one way a win for being in a title fight. I do believe if something good happened from Luque, it's very unlikely that a win over Neal propels you into a title fight, but we're in a very weird spot. You would just need a little bit of a shift where it could at least be possible. We could definitely see that. And when I told you that I'm not sure what Colby is doing, I mean, the same thing goes for Masvidal. Nobody has called out Masvidal. Nobody within that division is saying Masvidal's name right now. Masvidal is not called out or given us any direction or guidance or hopes or ideas of anybody within that division right now. That can change in 5 minutes, right? The mere fact that we don't know what's going to be next for Colby, or we don't know what's going to be next for Masvidal, they could send out a tweet while I'm talking to you now and all of that changes. I'm just sharing for you as I'm talking to you now. We don't have any direction or idea. I think that does bring you back down to Blahal. Now, what are you going to do with him? He's very clear that he wants Chimaev. Chimaev and Nate was the rumor 7 days ago, confirmed by Dana over the weekend that, yes, that's very much a match that we're looking for. That goes away. That goes away to the point that its placement on the card, which is the co-main event, is now solidified with Max versus Volkanovski. Nate Diaz gets into a back and forth with Chandler that many people thought had legs to it. Chandler then comes out that he's got an injury report. It was something with his shin and won't be making that date. And all of a sudden, Nate and Chimaev have now refound each other on social media and agreed to do a match. I'm lost. I mean, just Nate and the Chimaev. The first time I heard about that rumor was November, if not possibly October of last year. Simply didn't happen. Now, I re-heard about it on International Fight Week. It's going to be a great placement on the card. If you're going to go do a fight, go do it there. Didn't happen, but now it appears to be back together. I can't confirm any of these things for you. Like, the whole thing is just very interesting, but I do think that it at least proves one thing, that Chimaev's participation in the main event of the ABC show, which we thought he did have, and we were speculating would then be against Blahal, appears to be anything but confirmed. I think based on what I just told you, and the different prongs, the different layers to that onion that I just peeled, tell you that I just don't have clarity. That's all I'm speaking to. I have no idea what's going on. If I was to start to lay that division out in terms of who's a contendership or what a contendership fight with, I've got to be armed with the calendar. I've got to know where the head of that division, in this case, Kamaru Usman against Leon, I've got to know when that's going to be contested. Guys that are beginning number one contenderships have got to be somewhere in line a couple of weeks back, week or so after the title fight, to then be in a contenders match. A lot of questions. It really is very confusing. And what do you do with Blahal, right? I mean, I would suspect, but I've also been predicting this for you for about 11 weeks now. I would suspect that the announcement of Kamaru Usman and Leon is imminent. I would suspect that. I don't hate the idea. I don't hate the idea of Blahal just being the backup for that. I think there was a little bit of a surprise over the weekend when we ended up in the position that we did as it pertained to the championship match and Charles Oliveira. We almost always have a backup fighter. And that is a very fast and loose statement by me. But if we did go back and look at the calendar, we probably have it 60% of the time, maybe closer to 70% of the time. Sometimes we're not even told about it. I go back to the night at Madison Square Garden where Luque walks out. He's got his paperwork. He's completely licensed. He even gets on the scale. We were never told that he was coming. And I do think as we look over the weekend with Oliveira and Gaethje, maybe we say, okay, we need to always have a backup fighter. We need to always have this guy here just to preserve it. And even if it was Oliveira who missed weight, so the opportunity still was there for Gaethje. What if it was Gaethje that missed weight? You know, what if it was? Now all of a sudden the challenger can't challenge the champion. You got to bring that backup guy in. That's why we have it. That's why we have it, in case anything happens. In that case, it would have been a weigh-in. But it seems to me like maybe a good idea to continue to have that. And with the uncertainty at 170, I don't hate that idea for Muhammad. And I know Blahal is roaring and willing to go, and that includes against Chimaev. But Chimaev and Blahal have not had a back and forth on social media, which is a good starting point. It's where a lot of big fights get made within our industry. So before you blow that on, Blahal and Chimaev didn't call each other on Twitter. No, it's a really good place to start. It's currently Chimaev and Nate Diaz. 48 hours ago, it was Nate Diaz versus Chael. I mean, it's one of these hot potatoes that's moving around. 170 pounds is very unclear right now. I hope that changes. I would like to know who's next. I'd like to know the return of Colby and Masvidal. I would like to know what's going on with the Chimaev business. I would like to know what's next for Blahal. Let's get 170 figured out.